You're listening to the Banríon Show. It's 8 in the evening. Tune in every night at 8 to listen to the Banríon Show on Irish News Radio or ITV.ie. Show on Irish News Radio or ITV.ie. Today again we'll be talking about Islam, but a little bit easier than yesterday when we were discussing that horrible, disgusting fine practice. So today we will be talking about Islam, and we'll be talking about the different sects that there is, the different breakdown. Now, before anybody thinks there's a good Muslim and there is good Muslims, there is no good Islam. Islam is Islam. There's no one. I've often heard people say, oh, there's some really bad ones, you know, the Sunni Wahhabism is much worse than another one. And that's so not true. Like, they're all equally bad. So I'm going to explain what Wahhabism is today, right? Difficult for me to get my tongue around that one. So there's basically, it's Sunni, right? Sunni, there's two main Islamic groups, if you like. One is Sunni, and that's 90% of Muslims around the world are Sunni. And the other one is Shia, which is Iran. So they make up the rest of it. So Sunni would be the majority all over. Now what Wahhabism is it's almost like what it does, it's so if you have countries that are non-Islamic countries like Europe and America and all those sort of countries that are non-Muslim, what it is, it's basically what they do is it's finances. So it's to do with everything. So when you take a mosque, and then that mosque, if it's run from Saudi, will be Wahhabism, which is Sunni, and the interpretation for non-Muslim countries, for Muslim children in non-Muslim countries. So to keep the Islamic faith complete, so that they don't integrate, they don't have a washed down Islam, they have the strong form. So obviously, like anything, it'll become even more form, where if an imam is running a mosque and it's run by his own charities in that particular country, it will have, you know, it'll still obviously be horrific because it is talking about the Quran and you are talking about Islam. So it's not going to be, you know, any fairy tales. But once it's running from Saudi, you have a direct line from Saudi, and Saudi gets to say how and what is being thought. So you may have, like, you'll have, you know, anti-Jews, anti-Christian, anti-Christian ways of life, and particularly because they're funding this. So there's no free lunches here. Now, basically what they'll do is they've set up Islamic centers all over non-Muslim countries. So 1,500 mosques are run by them. Now, there's probably much more since this survey was done. 2,000 schools, embassies, 70 embassies around the world. And it's their job, basically, once it's been funded, Wahhabism is like, what is their job is to create and spread Islam in non-Islamic countries. So that job is to get the mosques built, to have the embassies, to have the Islamic schools, to not have them integrating with non-Muslim ways. And so it's run like things like organizations like the World Assembly of Muslim Youth, International Islamic Relief Organization, things like Muslim Brotherhood, supporting Dawah. Now, if you don't know what Dawah, it's quite an interesting word. Dawah is once or twice a year. Muslims will do, it's like an invitation to Islam. So you'll see them in Dublin and in Cork, and they'll have books and the Koran, and you know, it's like a step in, because they're trying to get non-Muslims involved in Islam, because you know that's the whole idea of Islam, is once a Muslim puts their feet on the ground, that ground is classified Islamic. So once it's run from from Dubai, all that money is spread to try and convert non-Muslims to Muslims, for the unbeliever. So it's a revulsion against Western influence, and it's been an explosive in growth since the 1970s, because of the money, the oil from Saudi, and it's a global expression against Western ways. So that's pretty much what it is. It's not that it's really bad and the other ones are really good. Far from it. They're all really bad, but that's just a control aspect. That's like the bank of it, if you like. That's the bank for the Western countries, to convert and to make sure that the Muslims are not, they're not becoming westernized, that they're not following, that they make sure that they're still, you know, to living Muhammad's ways. So it's quite a serious thing, because people kind of, in Ireland, we have the head of the Fatwa Centre in Clonskeagh, which is the Islamic Centre for Europe, which basically, if you don't know what a fatwa is, it's like a bounty. So if there's a bounty on someone's head, so that one in Clonskeagh will give it for Europe. So whoever they decide that are, you know, bad Muslims or bad bad people are speaking out about Islam or Muslim or Muhammad, you know, can get a fatwas on their heads, and that means that Muslims must kill them. That is their duty, to kill or try and kill that person. So it's pretty scary stuff that we have this in Ireland, and we've been paying no attention to it at all, or even asking what the Clonskeagh mosque is about, or other ones that are coming in, and they are Wahhabism in Ireland. The one in Clonskeagh has a Wahhabism school, and there's a new one that will be built in North Dublin, or has been built, and again it's the same. But it's not that the other ones are much more safer, but there was more control on them, because if it's just the imam, it's what he says. But if you're getting a direct line from Saudi has control of that building, and Saudi will say whether there should be a bombing, should be if they need to attack the Western way. And that, once you have funded direct from Saudi, will say whether, you know, that 9/11 was from Saudi. You've got to remember that this is where the money is. Like, and you see the Western are horrible governments play with these people, and our governments are nearly just as bad, because they're literally, you know, they're more interested in money than our lives. So they go over there and they do deals, but basically there are sleeper cells in every country, and if Saudi decides that there's going to be attack on the West, if you have Wahhabism and you have their schools and their finances, then you're in danger. You have sleeper cells anyway, even without that. And basically Ireland really hasn't been attacked, because they've always said that they will use Ireland to attack the West. So it'll be like their base to either attack either, you know, Europe, England, and America. They're going to use Ireland for that. So that's what they've. The funny thing about it is, they're honest a lot of the time. I mean, even though they have that thing where you can lie in Islam and it's not a thing, but most of the time you only have to listen to them, and they're saying this: death to America, death to Israel, death to Christians, death to the Western world, down with democracy. All you have to do is listen to them. But because the Western world and the leftists are so stupid and so want to believe this big fairy tale that it'll all work out, and it's not going to all work out. It really isn't going to all work out. None of it's going to work out. All you have to go to is an Islamic country to see what sort of life we're heading for. And the reason a lot of those countries are Islamic is it wasn't that they were born to be Islamic countries, like Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Afghanistan. They were all different religions. Islam came in and took away their culture, their country, their languages, everything to do with those, and particularly lives for women were left in a horrible way. And it is Islam, and you think, oh well, they're just the bad Muslims. They're actually following the Quran, and whether you like it or not, they are following what Muhammad's teaching in the Hadith is. So what you think is bad Muslims, Muslims think are good Muslims, and that is the truth that people don't want to live. All ISIS, Taliban, all them are actually following the word of Muhammad. They're not doing anything he didn't tell them to do. And by pretending it's anything other is lying. It's like a little safety net, but that's not real. None of those safety nets. There is no safe Islam. When you're following it to Muhammad's word, you are a danger. You are dangerous, not only to the Western world and every civilization, but even to your own community, because Muslims also kill each other, because, you know, the different sects are like, one believes that you can go to graveyards or tombs and the other one doesn't, or one believes the blood of Muhammad came down. It's all stupid things. It's actually nothing that will actually affect us as Westerners. What affects us is all they have the same rules, you know. Christians are evil, do not become friends, you know. Convince them that you're their friends, but you can never be their friend. You can never be their friends in your heart. And this is all written down. It's all in the books that they read. They have to read 3 books. One is the Quran, as we all know, and you need the proper interpretation through that. The other one is through the Hadith, and the other one is Sunni. Now, the best way to ever really get the truth and the answers that you need to know of what is going on is through ex-Muslims. They have nothing to hide. They have nothing to benefit from. They're not doing it for the good of their health. They're actually telling you this because they're telling you what their lives were like under Islam. They're not doing it to upset you or to upset Muslims. They're telling you the truth. And unfortunately, people don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear something of fairy tales. And that's not the way it is. There is 5 pillars of Islam. The first one is the declaration of the faith. And one of fasting, I think it's the 4th one. Pilgrimage to Mecca is the 5th one. Compulsory 5 times praying. That's the ones that I remember. But you know, there is an actual set, and they all follow this way. There isn't any difference. It's not like there's no difference that will affect you. The Sunni is Taliban in Afghanistan and Pakistan. There's nothing good about Islam. You know, there is nothing that can benefit. I mean, the difference between Christianity, and I keep saying this, is, you know, Christianity was, when Jesus died, it was to teach us humanity, and we living to the way of the New Testament, not the Old Testament. The Old Testament is the life of Christ. With Muhammad, even though it's 800 years a newer religion, there is nothing good. There's no humanity in it. It is bad. Like, you can take some, you know, the Muslims will give you, oh, you know, you treat your wife is like this is good. But then you'll have another verse, and it'll say, you know, to beat your wife if she doesn't do what she's told, and, you know, but don't beat her in the face. You know, and this is in the Quran. And the thing about the Quran is there's 2. Before Muhammad went to Medina, and afterwards. And when Muhammad went to Medina, he went a bit nuts, and he saw the devil. And when he saw the devil, he said, he came back from the devil, and he said that the biggest inhabitants of hell were actually women, and that they're not to be trusted, and that they have half a brain of a man, and you know, they're pretty much dangerous people. So this is why this anti-female so much, isn't it? Because Muhammad went completely mad in Medina. I don't think it was probably a great character, but certainly afterwards there, and then he married the child bride. Well, you know, forced marriage and forced rape, and then fying on the poor child, and she had to clean up after his mess that he'd make on her, which is horrific. That's also in the Hadith. It's pretty much a perverted, sick, paedophile freak. And the problem with it is, actually, before he went into Medina, it pretty much reads kind of like the Old Testament,
But unfortunately, after he went crazy, and it says if the Quran contradicts one verse from another, read the later and take the later on, and that's when he was completely loopy. So it really is a very, very dangerous thing, and there's no point in anybody pretending that there is good. There is good people, and thankfully, the best news about Islam, and this is the only good news, is a lot of them don't actually practice it or don't understand it. It's the ones that are practicing it and knowing it, they're the ones that are dangerous. The ones that aren't, but unfortunately, with Wahhabism, they are pushed into it. And, you know, for apostate, as I said before, apostate is somebody who leaves Islam, and the sentence for that is death. So this is not, you know, this is not something that they're even allowed to walk away from. The other good thing about Islam, I suppose, if you can say a good thing, is that they both want to be the head of the ruler. So Sunni is 90%, and Shia, which is Iran, want to be the head. So, you know, they keep fighting with each other, which is probably the only good thing about it, that they'll hopefully kill each other off. Now in Shia, there's obviously breakdowns in both, but there's the Twelvers, which is Twelvers, which is the biggest, and Ismailis and Zedis, which are kind of smaller groups. But really, it doesn't really matter. They all follow the same Quran, and you know, there's no point learning the different sects because they're all exactly pretty much the same. There's nothing really good. I mean, if the government had a brain or had a heart for people, it would actually, the Hadith and the Quran is actually hate speech. It's hate speech against everybody who is not Muslim, or who is Muslim and not following Islamic ways or the ways of Muhammad. So you know, that is the only thing that is good about it. There is a fantastic imam in Australia who speaks out about a lot of the teaching, because he is wants to reform Islam to, you know, so that it's user friendly, I suppose. But he gets death threats. I don't know how many fatwas he has. He's living in fear now of his life, like a lot of ex-Muslims. Now, he is actually still an imam and still practicing it, and he is trying to conform it, and he is trying to change it and say, look, this is, but that's about the only one. But they want him dead. You know, they don't see him as a Muslim because he's not following what they want him to follow. Anyway, thank you for listening again on the Banríon Show on Irish News Radio and ITV. If you have any questions, you want to ask anything, it's news@irishnews.net. And yeah, keep, you know, asking. I'll keep educating you with it and with the rest. I mean, the main problem is Islam wouldn't be a problem if our governments weren't so greedy and so evil and so much in for the destruction of our people and our culture and our ways. If our government wasn't so greedy, we shouldn't have allowed any foreign investment into the country, and they should be all controlled. Every single mosque should be checked, and there should be somebody going in, and they should be all made speaking either English, or there should be an Arab person, a non-Muslim, going in and sitting in the mosques, and they should be made to have, they shouldn't be allowed gender apartheid. You know, they have to follow laws of the country, and gender apartheid is not allowed, and that shouldn't be allowed, whether it's in a church or in a mosque. You know, people go, oh, what about the church? Well, if it's happening in a church, you should report it. None of this should be happening. But my main thing is Islam, because it's much more extreme. It's like, you know, everyone wants to compare apples and pears. It's extremely quite different, and that's where we need to put a stamp on. We need to say no more foreign investments. Give the money back to Saudi if you have to, but definitely close down the mosques. But wouldn't even bother giving back the money. Just say no, there's no foreign investments now. Saudi invested hard, look, but that can't be run in an Irish country, or any country shouldn't be run by Saudi. Their teachings will have to be run by who, you know, either you pick an imam who is not ran by them, who's, you know, you can look at his teaching, that it's not teaching hate against non-Muslims, to Jews and to Christians and all that you have somebody kind of going, okay, and you make sure what's going. There was girls in Bristol, little girls who are being female mutilated in Bristol in a mosque, and the Muslims accepted this, and this is normal in their practice. Not all of them do it, but they won't tell on anybody else who's doing it, and nobody gets charged in the United Kingdom. So these are, we can't just keep burying our head in the sands. We have to just stand up and say no more foreign investment. There's no free lunches here, people. If you take the money off Saudi and you take their buildings and their mosques and you think this is great, they're helping us out, it comes back. We pay the price. So you've already done a stupid decision. You have to say no more foreign investment. Either you give back the money, you sell the mosque and you give back the money to Saudi, and you say, look, you can have a mosque, but it has to be run without gender apartheid, without gender segregation, without any hate speech, without any danger to any female, without any danger to any children, to ours or yours. Well, then you can go ahead, but you have to have someone. And if you want to equal the balance, do that in Catholic churches or Christian churches, equally do the same. And as soon as there is hate speeches, not that there is in Christians because it's completely the opposite, but if you all leftists want to kind of make it all even, then do that as well and close them all down, close the ones that is against it, and then that is the only way to fight it. And no more foreign investment. You have to stop. There's no free lunches here, people. You take a free lunch, you're going to have to pay, and we pay with our lives, because there is sleepers there. And when they decide that they don't want to be sleepers, Saudi decides they want to do something, Ireland doesn't jump into line and become an Islamic state, they will wake their sleepers up. And there was no free lunches. Anyway, again, thank you very much for listening on the Banríon Show at Irish News Radio, ITV. Thank you very much. Talk to you again tomorrow.
You are listening to Irish News Radio and irishnews.net. Email news@irishnews.net.